Welcome to the Four Checks casts. We are your hosts. I am Justin Burch. Everyone wants
I'm Kevin Broberg.
Tim Keefe.
I'm Will Godbey.
and we are here to talk about what has been going on in the world of universes as we are approaching Denver, the first major regional of the year. So we're just going to kind of talk about a few of the things that have happened recently. The first one is we're going to talk a little bit about the Ace Arena, the first really, I think this might be the first fan tournament of this format. Really, I mean, unless you're kind of like Webcam Wednesdays, first one where there was real prizing on the line, and we saw some very interesting stuff kind of come out from that. Would someone like to kind of talk a little bit? Did any of the three of you play in the Ace Arena?
No, I didn't watch either.
We didn't get.
I watched parts of
it, but I didn't get to play in it. I had some stuff going on that day.
Well, so for those of you who are in chat who may not have known how the format for the Ace Arena works, one of the big things that kind of made it different than a standard tournament you might be used to is that it is single elim bracket. So we will, instead of you playing like 7 rounds, if you lost in round 1, you were out of the thing. In fact, it was kind of funny. I think almost every streamer who
everyone who was trying to stream it just got bounced.
Got bounced round 1. I know David got bounced. I know Tam got bounced. But we did kind of have some interesting results when we actually of what came out. There was kind of a lot of thought going in about, was this going to be an opportunity for the new decks to shine? Were we going to see some kind of old favorites? And I really kind of want to take a moment and look at the top 4. Does someone kind of want to, while I'm pulling up the stuff, mention what the top 4 looked like?
Yeah, so it was kind of a little of both, right? So we had a Grog that won the event. Then we had 2 Mirkos that were, I assume, both using the Science Bros technology that's come out combined. Yeah. And then we just had a good old Ymir, playing the new healer themed false visage card, but otherwise just kind of looking like a Ymir with no new training method. Various calls where like every Ymir has to decide, are you going to run speed hate, or are you going to run more zeros, or are you going to run this or that, or you're running meeting Hans versus recoup time, etc. But nothing too surprising from that list.
Yeah, I like that he included the technology he put on the map with the arrogant fighters to target seal stuff.
Yeah. I was glad to say I think all the random Ymir lists I've seen are now running arrogant fighter, which I believe is correct. So
it's a great card.
I think the craziest thing we saw from that was the 2 top 4 decks that had a lot in common with each other. I'm now where I can pull these up. So we had 2 Mirkos in the top 4. So just for those of you who did not watch or did not follow along, just the quick top 4. Where's these kind of, there we go, standings. So Dominic B was on Grog. He ends up winning the whole thing. Gavin is on Mirko. Kai is on Ymir. And Josh Adkins is on Mirko 2 as well. And do you guys know if Josh Adkins and who was the other one? Gavin F. If they're running the same Mirko deck, or were there any changes between them?
There had to be some differences.
There are a few differences.
Yeah.
So if you look at kind of like, and I want to kind of talk a little bit about kind of the Mirko one, because as you kind of mentioned, the Ymir was kind of what we expected. It's the same deck that Ymir's always been doing. Mirko has had some level of competitive value. It got what, top 8 or top 16 at U.S. Nationals?
I think it was top 8.
I think it was.
He qualified for Worlds and actually was one of the lost at Worlds. Was Josh?
Yeah. And I think the deck is still fairly similar to that deck, taking advantage of basically the fact that Mirko is one of those really good characters at utilizing the ability of popping her stage to do something and turn that into like a casino deck.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, there's a pretty big distinction between these 2 Mirko lists, and I think I was in one of the Discord threads where we were kind of debating some of this. So the fourth place list is playing Marco's Potential as well as this is my chance. Two foundations to help clear the card pool, and it's playing safety 3 checks. So it's not playing any twos. Where
Okay.
the one that wound up in second place is playing Lethal Slash and a greater density of 0 diffs, and none of those foundations that kind of can substitute for Mirko's effect if your opponent's trying to block you out.
Gotcha. So, before we move on to kind of what ends up winning the whole thing, I kind of wanted to talk broad strokes. Are you guys surprised at Mirko? Do you think this is a reflection of what we're going to see at Denver? Do you think this was just what people were playing, or what kind of made you think about the result?
It's I thought that it would take longer for people to get to Mirko because there was a lot of excitement about this deck on Percy very early on.
Yeah.
So I thought that's kind of what everyone would be doing. But at least relative to this event, or relative to the top 4 of this event, I mean, obviously Josh Adkins was going to be on Mirko. We knew that. But at least one other person said, you know what? I think Mirko does this better. And so, like, in that regard, I'm surprised. Am I surprised that combined firepower Science Bro deck are pretty popular right now? No, that's kind of obvious. You cannot watch one of those things go off and be like, yeah, that's a fair thing that I should not be doing. You know?
Yeah, it's hard to be unimpressed.
Yeah.
It does some pretty crazy stuff. Yeah, I think that to me it kind of makes sense. Like if I think of Percy and like if I say I'm going to build this all-in deck that is completely glass cannon, right? 7 hand size character, no particular defense, and I'm going to try to just sun run you. I'm just going to try to Luxac and have all these things line up. Like those kind of decks can succeed, but often they're playing on pretty thin margins. Like even if they're wildly imbalanced, especially as player 2, like it's hard for that deck to succeed. Even you just play pickup games with your friends, and like you often will not lose terribly. If you're saying I have to win on turn 2 or else happens an awful lot, especially if you play against people who are just like playing 30 health characters.
Yeah.
Even with combined firepower. And
or sometimes as like the squishy 7-hander, you just get murdered if you lose the die roll.
Yeah, I definitely agree that I'm surprised to see 2x of the same character in the top cut like this, which is kind of just the base rate of I'm surprised to see that. Like that's a surprising outcome, even if I think the format is woefully imbalanced. I'm not sure if it is or not, but it's still surprising with just the base rate. There's a lot of decks for people to be excited about, and it's a surprising outcome that they happen to be, two of the same ones here.
I think there's probably also something to say for the fact that like these are very aggressive decks, and aggressive decks that people know well. And whenever you are going into a relatively new format, even a new set release, aggro decks are an easy one to bring to the table. They're ones like, I know what this is doing.
Absolutely.
I know its game plan. Whereas like taking King Ghidorah when you don't exactly know what matchups you're going to play up against or what's going to be really popular might be a lot harder of a sell, especially for a single Elim online tournament where people are kind of more there for just the fun of it than really try harding a win. Not saying these players weren't trying, of course. It makes it really easier to bite a really aggressive deck.
If nothing else, you can test aggro decks by goldfishing them.
Yeah.
In a way that you don't really get to get a good vibe on a defensive deck. I don't know if that makes them better meta choices or whatnot, but when you have 10 days before an event, that's you can get a lot more testing time in that's valuable with an aggro deck than you can with a control deck, just because you just need to be able to imagine a reasonable opponent, right? Like, okay, what if they block twice? Yeah,
I 100% agree. I know that the part of the reason I've always gravitated towards like those more aggressive decks is because like it is really easy when it's like really late at night for me to go, I'm going to take an hour at 11 p.m. No one's up on TTS or whatever to play. Fine. I'm just going to kind of do these hands, see what this feels like. Right. And making changes becomes way easier to check as a result. There was one card I really wanted to hone in on that I thought was really interesting from the second place. I believe this is second place Mirko deck, which is Sweeping Daggers. We're probably going to talk a lot more about this card as we get to Denver, but just right now, are you guys surprised at all to see a Sweeping Daggers deck, a deck running, what is this, 4 copies? One of only 2 cards that he's running at 4 copies. Are you guys surprised to see Sweeping Daggers be making it this far already?
No.
The only thing I'm surprised about with that card is I didn't know it was a Fury. until I saw that, and I was like, that card is Fury. Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, almost retrospectively, I almost it's I'm to the extent I was unsurprised that Science Bros Mirko was a thing as opposed to a different character. The fact that like Fury can guide you to Mirko. Mirko's like looking for Fury. Say, hey, if I want to have a home for these sweeping daggers that I think is a good, like, just hypothesis. I think this is a good card for whatever reasons. All of them are correct, but then yeah, let's play Mirko. Like, this is seeing that here is like, yeah, I'm now more interested in playing Mirko for Denver, because I sure want to play this stupid daggers card.
I think Jose does mention something kind of interesting in chat, which is the fact that this also is going to gain keywords from whatever it rips off. And we think of that in terms of keyword abilities. I am very curious to ever see if you see it plugged into like decks that are normally keyword gated, but it might still mess around with those decks because if it picks up those keywords, like a charge deck, that might end up ever doing that. Because I think it is just a strong utility piece. Right. The way I was describing it to someone was that it is a 4-diff that is decently statted for a 4-diff that picks up the best 4 or 5 diff ability you need from your opponent's discard pile. That's really good to have. Yes, it whiffs occasionally, but boy, when it is hitting, it hits like crazy. Also, it does just burn for 1. And also does that as cost.
Sometimes it just does.
It can, yeah.
Which triggers firepower.
It triggers firepower and triggers Science Bros.
Yeah, and I think the idea of like it just misses sometimes. Like if you play 4 attacks in your turn and like your last one is sweeping daggers and you check a 5 on it, it's cheaper than Besiege at that point if Besiege checked a 3, right? Like you can, it's just 1 more difficult than a card you're perfectly happy playing with Besiege. And you can just check better on it, and then look, it kind of, even if you like exile an enemy Besiege or some other unimpressive hit, it's still just, it has the chance to just be just as good as anything else. Just base rate 5 for 4, it's fine.
Absolutely. Does anyone have any more thoughts on these Mirko decks before we move on?
I mean, no. I like the Falling Heel Strike in the other list.
Yeah.
It's cool. One of the questions that these Mirko decks are going to be answering is how do we replace losing Stun Grenade
100%.
In particular. So you have sweeping daggers in one build. We have a Falling Heel Strike doing some stuff. There's different things that are useful to unflip in the other build.
I don't know how popular this is amongst like old heads or things like that, but honestly, one of my favorite cards that they reprinted in the Cowboy Bebop Challenger deck is Falling Heel Strike. I think that card fills so many interesting niches and does so much different things. I think
I was mad when they reprinted it.
I'm not surprised. I'm not saying it's necessarily a fair card, but it is a cool card.
I just don't like the gameplay pattern of like I play the enhance, a flip enhance, and then I unflip it, and then I play the same flip enhance again on the same attack. Like,
the only thing I don't like about it is I don't like that the unflip is cost. I just think positive cost should not exist. But that's a very niche complaint, and it's nowhere near Coffee Samba.
Yeah, it's awfully close to like just a 4 that says enhance : unflip a thing, and I struggle to imagine a really particularly good reason why it's not just that.
Yeah.
Especially in this modern design era where flip costs are on most 1-divs, right? Like, I think there's a little bit. I think certainly like I like looking at UFS decks. I could probably fill an hour yapping about the subtle differences and reasons for even in these pretty similar decks. I think it's pretty interesting the difference in these sideboards. Just the we see showdowns and facing dangers in one. We see always cool failed role model, and then a spread of different heroes upbringings and karma stats in the other.
And I guess it's relevant to mention that there are sweeping daggers in the other list. They're just in the sideboard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There is a card I do want to call out specifically in the 4th place Mirko deck. I believe that's Josh's. I really like that facing dangers in the sideboard. This is a card that I think should be played in more sideboards as like a really flexible damage reset that doesn't have the same issue of invincible body where like it is has to be your first enhance. I think this card is really cool, and I wish it did show up more. Besides that, it's a lot of what you expect.
Yeah, Facing Danger is great. Like if it's card that isn't on your radar, it should be. You should get this card on your radar. It's very, very good.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially in this meta, yeah.
Obviously Grog is the one that everyone like is gonna be brand new. Before we get on to that, I do want to touch a little bit on the Ymir deck, because Ymir has been a character that people have wondered if that character will continue to be very good in a post new training rotated world and things like that. I had heard some people and I think the opinion kind of shifted with time, but I had heard some people relatively early on in conversations of rotation go, oh, when Ymir loses new training, her ability to play the game is going to go a lot slower and she's going to die. But obviously that's not entirely the case, given that we just saw one get third place. And there are some very choices that I don't want to call weird, but not commonly seen in Ymir. Spiral Wave Search, I don't think I've ever seen in a Ymir list. Spirit Gun Final, I've seen occasionally, but not super frequently in the lists.
I remember I got pumped up a month or two ago, when I started thinking about playing Spiral Wave Surge in Ymir with a package of other Fury attacks to go with Grish's Attack Titan and the Pro.
Ooh, that's cool. I like
Yeah.
that.
I think that the sort of most notable thing about this list, I guess, is that Rejuvenating Smash is absent.
Yeah.
And I imagine
I
that's because of Replicator Enthusiast. Because if you think about the lines that you're trying to do when you're trying to Replicator your way to a 9th Foundation, it gets pretty hard to play Rejuve as your second card.
That's interesting, because I didn't thought about that way, but you're right. Like, yeah, because if you're going to do Attack, Replicator, Foundation to get to the 9, that's now your 4th is going to be Rejuve. That's not going to feel great.
Right.
I think that's cool.
That is like a relevant restriction in this deck that comes up from time to time, is when you're running all the Rejuve, sometimes you can't force that thing to be second and feel happy about it. Right. Just depending on the way things are going.
I definitely, when I was playing Ymir at Worlds, I was definitely often in a position where I was like, man, I'm liking Rejuve, and it's good enough when it works that I can't imagine cutting down the number of copies. But boy, when it doesn't work, when it's like I've got 2 or 3 of them in the hand, and especially in early game where I don't have momentum or don't have the meeting Hanjis to get momentum from it, it can feel very awkward in a lot of those hands. So I kind of like seeing a deck shift away from that. And then False Visage, this one shows as a 4 of. This is the card that I think is going to be very interesting in time with Ymir, because I think this is a big question where I'm asking, like, does Ymir need a stats dump card? Because this is a stats dump card, definitely.
That's all it is in her, is just gigantic.
Does Ymir, because like I was playing Defeating the Colossus, which is a 6 diff that's largely a stats dump card. Now that one's about getting hella fast, because you can give it 5 speed immediately. But do you guys think that Ymir is a deck that really is going to need something like False Visage, or really wants something like False Visage to just be this big turn-ender?
Yeah, I think that False Visage almost strikes me as, I think that there isn't a Ymir deck, right? I think you can always build a character in one way or another, and I think there isn't necessarily a perfect build for every metagame or for every player. But certainly, for every metagame, but certainly onto every individual player who has their own preferences, their own way to approach the game or whatever. Kind of the idea of having a wide attack string is usually where Ymir's been centered. These Tetra Terrors, and broadly, like when your character says +5 damage, you want to put that 5 damage on 4 different attacks. You get 20 total damage out of that +5 that way than if you put it on 1 attack. But then False Visage comes into the mix where it says, okay, all these brief respites, breast buddies, and stuff that I'm playing in my deck anyway, these are now going to let me make a very tall attack that's going to be able to outspeed your defenses. I could imagine even playing this into like a barrier shield and getting to a position where you pump it up to fast enough they can't block or they'll struggle to block. They reset it, and then you can pump it back up to a problematic speed again just by spamming War Life Gain buttons. And that's a powerful trick to have available in a deck like this. I don't know if it's what I expect to be the mainstream, but it's an interesting option certainly to put on the table.
Did someone else want to speak?
Yeah, I think the 4 Immortal 4 Recoup says to me that this is one of those Ymirs that is pretty happy and possibly even looking to build to 16.
Yeah.
And if that's your game plan, then you might reach a state where you can trigger Visage, 4 or 5 times.
Oh yeah.
I think in terms of like the go in on turn 3 plan, most of the time you're probably not going to be able to trigger Visage more than at most 3 times, probably twice.
Right.
And in those cases, you somewhat clearly rather have Mikasa's Knee Strike.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because it's there. That is also a 5/7.
Oh, I didn't
right?
even clock that the Breaker 2 is not in this version.
Yeah.
You get
So
Breaker 1 with Spirit Gun Final. That's about it.
So it definitely depends on what you're doing. For as much as they play a lot of the same cards, there's definitely Ymirs that are plan A is to build a deadlock, and then there's Ymirs where plan A is to try to win on 3. And they require different approaches.
I definitely would love to see how this deck evolves in a post-rotation world. And I'm sure we're going to see it at Denver. I think Ymir is still like one of the decks to look out for. But like, especially with how flexible Tetra Terror is as a card. Tetra Terror says that like, hey, when we poke, we pick up any of our 4 divs. Are we going to see a world where we're splitting the difference and maybe running 2 False Visage because, hey, when we need it in a late game string, we can pick it up. Maybe a couple Mikasas, not just for the Breaker 2, but for the Deadlock. Because again, you poke with that. You then say Tetra Terror, you have to block, or the Mikasas is basically a throw. I think there's like a lot of interesting questions of what we might see evolve from this deck, because I think Ymir was already a deck that was not really near solved at Worlds. I mean, Tim and Mai's decks are very different than one another, especially in their attack lineup. And I know like Keenan's had some very strong differences as well, and many of the other lists I saw were very different. It'll be very interesting to see if where Ymir kind of settles down, if she settles down ever.
Yeah, I think this one that just won't, right? Right. The joke I made constantly about Ymir going into Worlds was that like part of being a Ymir player is every Ymir player will tell you that their Ymir is the best Ymir and every other Ymir is wrong.
Yep.
And I don't see why that. I don't think there's any reason why that would stop anytime soon. And they will legitimately have things that their Ymir is doing differently. Someone's going to come in with a Hunter's Ally Ymir at some point and be like, "Look at what I'm doing," you know.
I'm transforming on turn 2.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was funny. Chris and I from Final Round were on completely different Ymir builds for Worlds. And Tam was like, hey, you know, I always think being on a team, like people are going to run like very similar or the same deck, you know, like that's part of it is you collaborate and find one good deck for both of y'all. Why are your decks so different? And my response was, because we were both so cocky, we thought we were playing the best version of Ymir and we would not compromise on that.
I could see it. I could see that.
Yeah.
There is Jarrett Howarth, the on block draw your weapon attack. You can summon that with Weapons Ally, which is a weapon.
Yes.
Oh no.
Inconvenient duplication. Also an ally.
Kevin's cooking.
Actually, ally attacks don't matter in this, do they? Bummer.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Right. But there is, of course, one star, one that really shined in terms of critical role characters that really succeeded the Ace Arena, and that is Grog. Are you surprised? I'm just curious, because like Grog is a character I know some people have hyped up, some people were thinking it's a little overrated. Are you surprised to see Grog win the whole thing?
You know, the title of this deck is I Would Like to Rage Respectfully. And with all respect, like, could this deck win a single elimination bracket? Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Anything's possible.
I mean, it did.
And I think this deck has, I like a lot of stuff going on in this deck, honestly. And it's like too easy of a trope to just say, oh, well, yeah, it's like DR wall deck. Like, eventually you'll play against someone who has big guns or whatever, or can drag out the game or mill you or whatever. But kind of that. I'm a little surprised. I was a little surprised to see this, but I think I saw the deck list. I said, okay, no, this looks like a well-constructed deck. This has a lot of ideas that make sense and fit well together. And yeah, I can totally buy this. Took it down.
Does anyone else want to share thoughts before because I was not surprised myself. Well, I don't think Grog is what I think is the best character out of Critical Role. I think there are a few better. I think this gets back into like Grog is a very easy character to figure out what this game plan is. And again, no shade towards the deck design or deck builder as I say this, but like this deck is, let's get the good fires, the good deaths, the good DR cards, or sorry, good earth. cards. Let's get the draw cards, and then let's throw in a couple throws. Like, I think it's a pretty understandable game plan. It doesn't. I don't really look at this and go, man, that's a really weird thing I would have never thought in Grog.
Right.
So I think this is a deck that I'm not surprised was like a week 1 brew that was really successful.
And I appreciate how committed it is to. It has a clear understanding that at some point it's going to try to play an actual really long string.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right? It's only running 2 attacks that are more than 4 difficulty. It's running 8 3 diffs, 3 potentially 1 diffs, or often 3 diffs, with teaming with the attack titan, and instant shining flash shaving a difficulty off as well, with electric moth trying to find some more moves. So, as opposed to a lot of guys are going to kind of settle into this like, well, sooner or later I'm going to throw you to death, or I'm going to be like 50-50. I'm going to like have enough throws that I can do that if I need to, and the rest of my attacks will just be like good cards. ... This one could presumably, like, for as much as Grog's slow tank guy, whatever. This deck probably killed people on 3 with some regularity.
I will say I love the attack lineup shape of we have these battle ores on electric moths that are just these great advantage pieces in the high zone, as well as the instant shining flashes is less not nice like card draw, but just good stuff. And we have the 6 kind of evasive mids on top of four low zone throws. So if you want to hold every block zone against this guy, you want to cover your block zones. And then he happens to draw 3 of the same zone, like you're in trouble.
And you've got to hold a +3 block for the besiege, so that's like not all hands are going to have that. Yeah, I definitely
hold an attack for Haymaker or something that isn't just a spam foundation.
I do want to roll or walk back something I said a little bit, because I said like most of these cards are expected. I think there's one really cool choice in this deck, and that's teaming with the attack titan. I think, as Tim mentioned, like, this is a deck that is going to want to get to where it's playing a string, and I think realizing that and going, hey, depending on what I've played, I'm going to get to play this as a late game attack. It's going to be 8 damage and 5 speed, so it's going to already be hard to interact with. But if I draw my high attacks, I'm going to be able to make this a high because I've already zone fled you. I think you're running out of those blocks. I can try to kind of guess what the opponent's blocks remaining are and play off of that. And I think that is really cool to have done that approach.
Tim, I'm so sorry. I kind of want to play this deck. I didn't think of the attack zone. Like I love this shape of attack mix-ups of we have the full coverage of all the different zones. Right? We have the throws, we have the small number of low mix-ups and then like the high zones you need to focus on.
There's
sorry,
the like slam a bunch of damage reduction foundations might not be the best thing to be doing ultimately.
Yeah.
But I think that's a very version 0 and then figure it out after that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably a mix, right? There's some, you probably want at least some, right? Because your character only shaves off 2.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're going to want to be able to do a toughest punk or the pull from danger or that sort of thing. But, maybe reaching so far as to be playing, Stoic Enmity gives you a rage counter, but like some of these might be like more damage reduction than you actually need.
I think
like trimming some warm and bubblies for something else could be a plus ED play or whatever. Yeah,
absolutely.
And when I saw him on stream, I didn't see him using his or ever really having enough counters to constantly do number 23 pro here. So I'm wondering if that might come out too.
That's a good question. I think there is one more card I wanted to touch on. One thing I want to kind of see I wish I could have the guy here to ask him this question, because I want to know how many times does he go into this Byakko, because I think it's a really interesting decision. Because I'm guessing, and I am not a mind reader, but if I were to guess, this was an answer to what Broberg was saying, which is, what do you do when Grog comes against the guy who's putting big damage on things? And the answer is we play the guy who can loop juries. Like, I am guessing that is probably why this guy is here. But it's also a weird choice, because if I look at the foundation lineup,
they cap out at 2.
They cap out at, we're not even playing like a good 3 diff. Like, we're not. So I do kind of wonder, like, what was the reason? Like, does Byakko's being able to like loop juries or hit important foundations a bunch?
Yeah.
Did it make up for at any point for the fact that we've swapped to a true 5-hander plus 2 damage character? It may have. I just kind of want to know.
In chat, it's just like, I don't know. He didn't know what to put in there. Just let sometimes it's like that, right?
Oh, hey, you know what?
Yeah, Yeah, hate to burst your bubble, but he literally did say, I just threw him in there because I had 8 cards, I needed 10.
I was about to be like, this is like an insanely
I wish I had that problem.
crackhead, like looping jury play. I did not realize he just threw it in there. You know
I
what?
have 10 cards and I want 14.
Because the list on UP or UGN has a bearded titan in there.
Okay.
Not the sins of the past. There's a Byakko and not the sins of the past. The Berserker Bite is a bearded titan in UGN.
I saw the Byakko, my eyes lit up for a second, and then I realized, wait, there are Death Attune cards in here. This deck cannot play close combat tackle.
Right.
It has to side out 4 attacks for something else out of here if it wants to ever switch to Byakko.
Man, I got excited, but I'm hearing all these reasons why it was like not a good idea.
But like, you can still cook out of that, right? It's just a deck.
I actually do unironically think like a world, because I do think Grog is going to have to answer, what do I do against the big ass decks? The decks that are throwing every moves for 10, every moves for 12. And especially if this deck's not running, I think, any meaningful speed hate. Like, what are we doing in those situations?
It depends on what their speed is, though, right? Like, because he is probably drawing some cards, right? He does.
Sure, he's definitely going to have the cards to block. The bigger question
he gets to jury one of those moves down to 2 damage.
I just ask myself, like, if we're in a rampage situation, a city rampage deck where moves are 6 or 7 speed base, what is this Grog doing? It might be able to handle those. That's what I want to know.
He does have 14+1 blocks.
Yeah, and that may be enough.
He has 1 on each zone too.
Just check the 5, dude.
Check the 5. You know,
hold your juries.
I mean, that's why you have an attack lineup that can kill someone on 3.
Sure, right. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think we could probably do a whole episode on the speed rat race. Honestly, like if your opponents aren't putting speed on things, like you don't want to be playing speed hate.
Right. Oh, trust me, that is one of those things I've been thinking about. I do want to talk about our speed world at some point because it's been very
me staring at my main deck new number 1s with great nervousness because I don't know what to side them out for when they're dead. But it's so good when it's good. I don't know.
It's so good, yeah.
Oh man. All right. Are there any last thoughts before we move on to kind of the next thing we want to talk about?
No, yeah, let's get going.
All right, let's talk about. We are going, or people are going to Denver. I think all 3 of you are going to Denver, right?
I am, yeah.
Yep.
So
Kevin and I will be on a plane in 24 hours.
I'm the only loser who's not going to be there. So we need to talk about kind of what we are playing for, though, because we know a little bit about the point system. I should have already had this up like a good streamer.
We know all the breakdowns. I think we know about anything we're going to know.
Oh, yeah.
And because UVS Game updated their website today, and maybe this was updated before that, but the organized play page actually has all of the points on it, and it's stuff about 2025, which was not the case last time I checked.
So we heard about the point system a few weeks ago. It was kind of frustrating because season 4 came and went. There were locals. It was going to play into the point system, but we didn't know if the points were going to be like, was it going to be near enough? Was it going to be worth it for local play or not? We started having our first scrambles and everything without hearing any word. We thankfully finally have the system, and I think it's pretty interesting. So just in case anyone in chat has not seen the full breakdown, I'm just going to, before we talk about it, very quickly rattle off what it's going to look like. So there are 2 types of invites. There's a day 1 and a day 2 invite. Day 1 is just you get to go there. You get to play in like what's going to be the big open before whatever their top cut or equivalent is going to be. That one you only need 50 points to get to. You need 4 times as many, 200, to make it to day 2. That is for North American players. We've lowered those numbers to 40 and 160 for EU and 30 and 120 for OCE. Local championships are giving a lot more points than they used to. Participation now guarantees a point, whereas I believe in the past participation did not get you a point. And on top of that, instead of it going 10, 5, and then I think it was like 4 for 3rd and 4th, and it stopped there, local championships are now 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2. So there, right now it used to be you'd get half as many for 2nd place. Now you're only getting 2 less.
They kind of had to do it though because we got rid of qualifiers.
Yeah, with
Scrambles
LQ's
are
gone,
not awarding points. Yeah,
with LQ's gone, this kind of balances that out. And then finally, the big ones showing up to regionals. We have 5 for participation, 25 for 32, 50 for top 16, 75 for 8, 100 for 4, 150 for second place, and 200 for first. So if you want to get day one and you don't have a locals, you need to either make top 16 once or top 32 twice. That is going to be the baseline for anyone who does not have a local event.
Can I be
no
mean?
locals whatsoever. Yeah.
I don't think UVS games should be designing their system around people that have absolutely no capacity to go to a local whatsoever and can't even like drive 3 hours to go to some local championships.
I'm looking to see if we lost any viewers with him saying that.
There's gonna be some people in that boat. Like I understand that, but the actual number of people in that boat that would be serious about attending Worlds is like a single digit or a low teens maybe.
Yeah, and at some level, like the reason to play a game like Universes is for the community, is for having a third place to go to, and like that's the 10,000 foot view of why you're doing this instead of playing on your Xbox is for the community. It's for having a place to go.
Sure.
And if you don't have that, like that's okay. We're not. I certainly don't judge you as a person, but like the organized play system exists to organize play, and so having that be aligned with that big picture, I think, just makes sense.
Well, and I think it was important before we kind of talk about Worlds on a broader scope. I think it was important to make sure we are incentivizing locals. Like, I think you're already going to have an issue with scrambles potentially not providing enough value. That I am kind of curious to see how locals are going to feel if you're going to have a lot of locals where people aren't showing up very often besides for the LCSs, whereas the LQs kind of provided more opportunities for people to have a good reason to show up beyond just supporting their locals. It'll be kind of interesting to see if that's the same case or not in the new system. Scrambles aren't offering anything, right?
There's some scramble specific promos, but it's all like if you show up, you get one, and if you win, you get a slightly winner stamped one. But in our case, because our special events are very often on weekends, and that's not when our weeklies are, we have a hard time getting people to come to the special events.
And can I just say, as someone who is in the retailers chat, because I am basically our store spokesman for that, I think it's insane that the only incentive to go to your scramble are the promos. Stores are only getting 8 of those.
Yeah.
You're just getting 8. You get 16 for the championship, though. It's kind of wild.
It's where they expect people to travel for championships, I guess, more so than...
I guess. It just feels bad because they didn't even guarantee that stores that have more than 8 players will get a second kit. They said, you can message us, and then we might figure it out from there. And I was like, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, again, that kind of gets back to my worry of like, is this system, and maybe we should talk broad strokes. Do you think this system is supporting locals enough right now? Specifically points or even kind of promos?
On paper, yes. I think in practice, I think bare minimum should be 16 promos just to guarantee everyone gets something.
Yeah. Putting scrambles in like their own isolated bucket, like, well, they'll have to figure those out. I imagine they'll get a lot of feedback after the first ones. This kind of sort of a new thing for them in a sense. I think once we get like the good weekly prize promo packs with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think we'll be in a pretty good place locals wise.
I do love that those are coming back.
Absolutely, 100%.
Forgot about that. That's exciting.
I do think it is interesting. Do you guys think there's a problem with the fact that if you have one locals, because I'd say most people have one locals.
Yeah. I would say they should design their system with people with one locals in mind.
Yeah. Do you think it is a problem that with one locals, assuming 4 seasons, if you won all 4 of your LCSs, you would not qualify for Worlds? Do you think that is okay?
Yes.
Okay. Can I hear why?
I think it is good that they want people to attend at least a regional or two. If you want to go to Worlds, then you should ostensibly be willing to travel to your nearest regional
Sure.
at some point when it comes up, and maybe go to 2 regionals, especially with no nationals on the schedule, right? You probably expect people to attend 2 events. Now, I don't like that regional participation is only 5 points. I wish it was 10, maybe 15, which is a bit of it's a small nitpick that they might change next year.
Or at the very least, grant points for like top 64.
Yeah, it is. I think if someone like top 4s, all their local top 4s, their 4 local championships, and shows up to 2 regionals, okay, you can go to Worlds, right? Like, I think that's fine. And the bar is only like slightly higher than that. So in reality, anyone in this situation might like travel out to an extra local championship or whatever. But
I mean, yeah, like that is, and I think the number 10 is a very interesting one to hit on there for why that might have made sense as participation, because then if you got 2 first place, because you get the participation plus the 10, that's 11, plus 2 second places for your 4 of the season, you'd be at 40 points. Then just showing up to a regionals would get you there. Now you would need to just show up to 2, which is still arguably fine.
Well, I think now you have to show up to like a little bit. Well, you have to show up to 2 if you're doing that well at your locals, right? And they want day 1 of Worlds to have a really high attendance, and I think the bar is just like a touch too high. Not by much though. I
agree.
And a lot of people that only have 1 local may actually have a place that's like 2 hours away that they can road trip to a couple times in the year. It's not a completely homogenous. You either have 1 or more than 1, and that's it.
Do you because speaking of kind of like the points, how many it's going to take to get to Worlds, I saw some people saying Worlds should be entirely open. Do you think it is good that they have some point limitation on Worlds?
So I think that there's a reason that we had gated regionals, and there's a reason that we had gated nationals, is that people like being invited to things, I think. Like that is ultimately one of the reasons, and I think having a measure of exclusivity, like a little hurdle to jump, has merit. Like, it's not like that system is good on the balance for the game. Just having it be completely open, it takes a little something away from it. I'm not sure I can exactly put into words what it is, but like, people like being a member of the club and for having to earn that space. And I think making it be completely open and would cheapen it a little bit it's kind of like a dumb psychology thing, I think, ultimately, more so than any really rational level reason. But I think it does exist there.
I really like that you mentioned the whole like people like being invited, because I will tell you, I love being able to say I'm a 2-time Worlds qualifier, and you bet if I got the 50 points and I wash out day 1, I am going to say I'm a 3-time Worlds qualifier. That it will be a factual statement.
Yeah, and I'm glad they drew it back to say Worlds is the event with a gate that we will keep, and that you can go, like, we don't have nationals anymore. That was the other one like that. But like, taking away the gate from regionals was a good decision. full stop. And it's cool. The World Championship is something you have to earn a seat at.
Yeah, there are definitely non-zero people that maybe aren't in here and wouldn't even be in our chat that, like, at some point in 2023 or 2024 got a random pass down at a local qualifier, and then they got that email and they're like, oh man, I've been invited to this thing.
Yeah.
And a bunch of those people are like, I should go, right? In a way that they never would have considered going if it was just like, oh, anybody can do this.
Yeah, if you just ask them, hey, do you want to go to Worlds? They'd be like, I don't really care that much. I'm not a big gamer of this thing, but they get an invite. It's like, well, hey, it's a nudge, right?
Right.
So I want to make sure we have time for our final predictions part, but I do kind of want to ask one last big question before we move on, which is for the day 2 part. 2 questions. Do you think 200 points is a good bar for day 2? 1. And then kind of the second part of that question, do you think as a whole, the way we've distributed the regional point structure, the 25, the 50, the 75, the 100, 150, 200, do you think that was like the right spread?
I think it's in the right ballpark. What I like about it is that if you just like top 8 a bunch, like you can never bet that the same for like, you have to be a lot better than everyone in the room to like win every time, right? I don't win every time. but if you consistently top 8, that's a tremendous accomplishment, and that should be recognized ultimately. If you have that consistent result, like I think that's even more important than like the winners is good because you recognize their accomplishment, but then having space for other people who can achieve something without being the guy holding the flowers on Sunday. I think that's almost the reason to have this kind of point system. So I think it's good that there's a clear line for that, and I think that it's shaped in a pretty reasonable way that the second place finishers in a lot of the regionals might be getting the day 2 invites.
I definitely like the idea that that second place almost gets it, because I also think like the line between first and second place is often so thin at regional tournaments. I've very rarely seen a regional where I was like, hey, 100 out of 100 times, the person that got first always beats the person that got second. So I like that, like, you get first or you get second, you've got a good shot first place, you get it. Day 2, second place, as long as you do okay at another regional, you're going to make day 2 as well. I definitely think that is the right way to go about it. And then top 4, I think if someone has made top 4 twice, top 4 is a hard accomplishment. I think that like day 2 is very reasonable there. I guess my only ones is like, I don't know how I feel about, I think top 16 being 50 is very interesting. I am kind of curious to see if there's anyone who has never gotten past top 16 who makes it to day 2. I think it'll be very interesting to see if you have.
If you make 3 top 16s and play in a bunch of locals,
then you deserve it, right? Like,
I think this is a fine place to throw the dart, right? Yeah. Obviously they're just kind of guessing on this to some extent, and this all seems reasonable to me. And if we get there and it turns out there are 160 people that are pre-qualified for day 2, then they'll make adjustments for next year.
Right? Yeah. I definitely agree with that. All right, final thing we want to talk about. I'm going to kind of let Tim take the lead on this one, which I know is shocking, me talking less for a change. Let's talk about what we're kind of thinking towards Denver. So Tim proposed a little bit of a mini game. Tim, would you like to kind of talk about what we're doing?
Yeah, so you've probably seen this on some similar type of shows. We have either whiteboards or pieces of paper, and rather than kind of like bounce around the room like piggybacking off each other or whatever, I was thinking we'd just ask some questions. Everyone will write down their answer. We'll all show our answers at the same time, and then we'll see if we get 2 people with the same answer first of all, and then kind of talk about our answers from there, just so that everyone's kind of blind predicting without hearing everyone else talk first, and it's a little more fun this way. So first question: who will be the most represented in Denver? Which character card?
So this is character card.
Yeah. I don't have any notebook paper, but I found an envelope.
Always prepared, Broberg.
Listen. I have a pen at least.
We're all good?
I'm good when you guys are.
Are we all backwards?
I think we're all
probably.
backwards.
Probably. I think that's how.
Tim, you're not backwards on my screen.
Oh, okay.
What Justin pick? Ymir.
All right.
Yeah, we got.
Yeah. So,
I literally in my notes I had written down Mirko, and I changed my answer to Grog.
Yeah. I would be between those two too. I think. I don't know if any of these answers are too surprising. I think there's a chance it's actually Percy still, and that the Ace Arena was an anomaly. But given what we know, we might imagine that it's going to be more Mirkos and less Percys. Ymir is. Yeah, I don't know. She obviously had decent percentage at Worlds. I just think a lot of people are just going to be on shiny new things. I know I am. I'm like,
sure.
If I wanted to try hard and seriously try to win this event, I might just bring some form of Ymir again. But man, I want to play my cool Sam deck.
Yeah, we could probably also talk about Pony. Probably should be in this conversation too. Actually.
Yeah. The previous Public Enemy #1.
So yeah, I put kind of Ymir on mine with that, because was Ymir not the most, or was it Godzilla was the most represented at Worlds? Because I thought Ymir was in the top 3 represented.
Ymir has certainly been in the upper right quadrant of the pie chart every time.
And I think people have realized that she did not lose a lot with rotation. I don't think many people are still panicked about the new training method loss I kind of talked about earlier. not being a big deal. So I think people are very comfortable with that deck. That's why I was kind of thinking that. I do think like I don't necessarily think Mirko, but I think a Death Casino build, and it might be Mirko's the one to do it, has a good argument to be at the top most represented. Because
trying to find the world's list here. Oh, it was Ymir and Pony were tied. I could see it being Godor was number 2. I could see that happening. I just think like we'll see how people react to this point system. I think people are going to feel relatively less pressure to be mega sweaty at these events compared to, well, certainly compared to 2022 and probably compared to 2024, but more sweaty than 2023 where like the events didn't matter really at all. Right. And like at least we have some cool promos and stuff this time. So I think we'll see a reasonably healthy feeling in between of like, obviously nobody's going there to lose, but I don't know how many people are going to play decks they don't like, you know?
Sure. No, I think those are all fair points. I think the only one I question a bit, and I could be it. I think Grog is the really wild card one.
Yeah.
Because I think like Grog was the most hyped character from this set in terms of power level. I think almost every list I saw besides Broberg, who's put him near the bottom, put Grog as like a top 2 or 3 character.
Jose, I put up Grog because I think it's going to be shiny new toy syndrome. Like you just said, Justin, he's the most hyped up character. He's the most like straightforward character. He's very easy to build. Of course, that's not saying against the person who won with him. But like I could totally see people going like, I want to play something from this set, but it's so close after release. I'm going to play the safe option. I'm going to play Grog.
And I almost said Grog for that reason. My big question mark right now, reason I call him kind of a wild card, I think a lot of people have gotten colder on Grog as they've built him more, as they've seen like he's a bit slower to kill. The all throws build, if people are stuck on that build, I think they're going to find that build feels kind of lackluster in trying to kill people.
Yeah, throws suck.
Yeah.
So that being said, though, do remember it's a week after release.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's
not everyone's been testing as much as we have.
The two questions for Grog. The two questions I have with Grog is Grog going to be tested enough where people feel comfortable taking him and enjoy taking him, or is he going to be like, we're just going to take him because we're going to run it because it's an easy character? And then the other question is, do people have their product and have what they want from the set? Do they have? I think a lot of people, if they don't have 4, I would like to rage, despite the fact that it wasn't being run in the Ace Arena build. I think a lot of people might get scared to run Grog without 4, I would like to rage, for example.
Yeah, and there's certainly a lot of easy ways to get discouraged from things. And if you're convinced you need your I would like to rage, you ain't got them. You'll just play your pony deck from last year.
50% of a given regionals field, give or take, is not this competitive, right?
No.
Like they're just gonna be. I love Grog. I'm showing up with Grog, QED.
Yeah, right? Yeah, we're saying all this. It could be like Godzilla's the most represented again because hey, who doesn't love City Rampage plus 3 damage? Like you know, there is
people might be bored of that by now. It's not a new shiny thing anymore. All right.
Grog is the closest thing skin to Godzilla. In the new set.
All right. Next question.
Who's gonna win? What character wins the event?
Hey guys, can you tell me what you were taking real quick? That might influence my answer. You know?
It's not going to be
me. I would if I knew.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on a second.
I would be thrilled if I just top 8 this, but I'm figuring I can at least top 32 ? Probably. That's where I'm at.
If I can go 500, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Especially D Sutton, which
yeah.
I don't know if I can
so Justin, I don't know if you're backwards, but I am backwards on at least on my screen.
So should I write backwards?
That's reveal.
I think everyone can read backwards.
We can read backwards. It's fine. We got Nick Reagan, Rodon,
Yeah,
Nick Reagan,
the character.
I put Tarjan.
The player.
Will and I are on the same wavelength.
The character, absolutely.
Well, hey, it might be the player and the character. I think Nick is taking Nick.
Yeah. So somebody talk about Nick Reagan.
Oh. Yeah, why don't you guys handle Nick Reagan? Have you guys been testing Nick Reagan? Because I know a little bit about the deck from my testing.
I have. It's hard to shuffle that many cards, so that's why I'm not taking that deck.
So I've done a lot of playtesting with it as an 80 card deck because, and a little bit with it as like the full 116 card Mamma Jam. but I've done a lot of it with as an 80 card. That deck is so weird to me. If this was a single Elim tournament, kind of what Broberg was saying earlier, I would feel comfortable with that deck, because if a lot of people were tanking, I would say one deck gets to the end, no problem. I don't know how I feel about it, because boy, when that deck bricks, that deck feels terrible when it bricks. It builds 1 or 2, and most of its, like half its attacks are 5 and 6 diffs. Yeah, it might get an attack off. And if it's against a really defensive deck like Tarion or Rodon, I've had a lot of games, if you're trying to play the more efficient, like 80 card that's more consistent in its aggro, you get the trade-off of like, hey, if they can play defense for long enough, I just lose the game because I mill.
And that's why I wouldn't play the 80 card version.
But I don't know if the 116 card has the consistency of good hits to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about like I guess if you have multiple entries in the single limb bracket, but I mean, the single limb bracket is like you can randomly beat yourself in Swiss.
Sure.
Right. So I think Nick Reagan, certainly I would imagine there's going to be at least one in top cuts.
Sure. I think I'm
sort of, for those reasons, a little suspect about it going all the way, but like, if it's only going to be a top 8, it only has to win 3 of them. So I could totally see it. But yeah, I picked Tarion. This is kind of just, I think there's going to be at least 2 or 3 really good players on Tarion that are really excited to play their cool asset guy that put a lot of thought and work into that deck.
Oh yeah.
And so I think I think there's a pretty decent shot that he ends up being the one to take it in the end.
Yeah.
Yes, I almost put Tarion for that reason, because I think he is the buttons character. I think he's the character that gets a bunch of cool buttons to hit, cool speed hate, VME. He's using all of those. Probably the best.
You did not just call VME cool.
VME's cool as hell, dude. What are you talking about?
Sorry. Dude, I had a game where I was up against a Caduceus. I think how do you say his name? However,
I think it's Caduceus.
Caduceus. I was up against a Caduceus, and I built 3 VMEs with Tarion, and I one-shot every backup he ever built because they all ready themselves on hit. That card is cool. I think Tarion is the
okay. I'm sorry. VME when you have 2 momentum is cool. VME when you have 8 momentum is lame.
Right.
I think Tarion is very cool. And Tarion was almost what I put on my list. It was between. I think this is the meta for like a good mid-range deck that like plays good speed hate and can make things fast, but also plays enough aggro to actually kill people. The reason I went Rodon was I played top 16 against George as Rodon list, and I thought that list was so cool. And I think Rodon was doing so many cool things, but the problem was it could not kill people. It now has Science Bros. I think it now has a much, much easier time killing people in a post-Science Bros world.
Oh, that's fair.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. I very minimally like threw together an Rodon and like goldfished it a bit, and it was maybe you have to be void combined firepower to do this right, but like Science Bros merely gives +1/+1 to every move and draws you a card at some point, which is good. But it is not the difference between like, man, I can't kill anybody, and oh, look, I can get there.
How do you feel about the fact that incubating when you have a Science Bros out becomes just +1 damage to every move?
So that's a point in favor of Void for sure.
Because that was what really sold me on it.
That's not too bad, yeah.
What really sold me on it was when I was doing like, because I was playing a lot with Rodon, and I was doing like +3 speed, then +1/+1, and then I'd have like 2 or 3 incubating, so it would be mid to late game, and all my moves are getting +2 and +3 damage. Like, the problem that I had that George's deck had was when it entered the late game, it just could not find the damage often to kill people if someone was willing to play defense. I think now it finds the damage. There may still be other problems, but I think that helps the damage a lot better.
That makes sense. Yeah, Void Rodon probably a little bit. I was trying to do Air, but Air has a lot of decisions to figure out right now.
Yeah.
Different things you can run.
As a lover of the Aerodon, it's a hard deck.
Yeah, I feel like it gets buffed. Aerodon gets buffed so much, just you get the ability to like trash a supersonic flight from the bottom of your graveyard instead of just the top. Like that seems like a huge deal, but it's still, it's sure not incubating.
Yeah, yeah, but like Air, there's a bunch of like Hunter's Ally things you can be doing. You figure out how many Krakens are you running, how many Frog Strikes, Fajins are you running, like things that have 4 difficulty moves with 7 base damage, and like.
Wait, Fajin, Jesus, that's so cool.
Yeah. There's just a lot of, but if you're playing a lot of those tech cards, you end up with a lot of +2 mods and not +3s, and it's tough.
I'm just curious, Tim, was your Air Rodon, was it playing Tinker's tools to remove those supersonic flights from the
Yeah,
discard?
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's
sure.
cool, and I would like to see more of a deck like that. I would give it, in my opinion, it is either Rodon or Tarion, and I feel like it could have been either. I think they also have both. I think the other thing with Void Rodon, last thing I'll say before I move on, I like it in the Tarion matchup because Hacker Extraordinaire is a real hell of a card
Fucker's
against
card.
Tarion.
I don't care if we're like not supposed to be like keeping this family friendly or whatever. That is a fucker's card.
You guys are welcome to swear as much as you like. I'm a teacher, and I'm worried one of my students is going to sometimes see this podcast, so I'm choosing my words a little more carefully.
All right.
Yeah, so it only really matters if we monetize the replay page, but then you can just insert and post.
All right. What character do we think will be missing from top cuts, and people will be surprised that they aren't there?
Ooh, I like that.
Now, obviously, they're subjective about what you think is a surprise or not, but
I think it was the next one that was really making me reflect on surprises. I think.
yeah.
I'm gonna go with the hot take here. It's fun.
Ooh, is it a hot take that people expect this character, or a hot take that they're gonna miss?
Give me one more second.
It's a hot take that they're gonna miss.
Okay.
If you put Nick Reagan for this one too, I will love it. That'd be awesome.
I don't think I'm allowed to do that.
That'd be a gamer move.
I put Pony.
Oh,
Pony?
Pony misses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Crystal Lens, Percy. I put Rodon.
I can see Rodan.
I think I think he has too many problems to solve for a quick format. I believe in Rodon for Albuquerque, not for this event.
Damn, now I have to let Tim down by playing Grog, and I have to let Tim down by counterfaking his prediction.
So,
So what else did we have here? We had Percy.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
I
that
think-
none
yeah,
of
I
them are
agree.
gonna. Yeah.
It's just hard to like win that many dice rolls or
Yep, right.
build a deck that can play as player 2 well enough. Like I believe in Irwin way more than I believe in Percy, and no one's playing Irwin either. So
Yeah, the word surprise was the word that was tripping me up here,
Yeah.
because I almost put Pony, because I think Pony is definitely not going to top. I agree with Will. My concern with that is I've heard a lot of people going, well, she lost Any Means Necessary, I believe is the card. So she's like, she doesn't have as much draw now. So I heard a lot of people already kind of poo-pooing her. And
Yeah.
so I don't know if that's a surprise or not.
Yeah,
Right.
Pony's still a heck of a character.
Right.
It's not gonna be, but I don't think like Lethal / Pony is it anymore. The deck that people really like, the like one with the optimized goldfish, the one that looked really good playing against nobody on your kitchen table, is probably not good enough right now.
now I can let down the haters by playing Pony. Damn it! Oh, this is hard.
I saw Crystal Lens on there.
Yeah,
Evans, yeah.
I think she's good, but no one's gonna play her, and so
Okay.
people who think
say,
she's
is
still
Travis
good
not
is gonna be
going?
surprised. Yeah.
I don't. I believe Travis is going,
Okay.
but I could see him moving to Elder for this
And
format.
that's fair. That's fair.
I was saying,
Yeah.
my thing with Krista is I think Krista has had not great conversion rates. Like if you look at Nats, she had like 7 or 8, and I think 1, maybe 2 top, which is okay. And like Travis is a
Nets,
crazy
I know
player.
two of them topped because Justin got top 16 but lost to Mimic or something.
And so like
Or no, he lost to Mirko. That was right. And it's kind of like that was a believable storyline that, oh yeah, here's the potent aggro deck that presents more threats than you can have runaways for.
And I think even at like Worlds, did he lose 1 or 2 games in Swiss? Do you guys know?
Yeah,
I think
I remember I was
It was
surprised
X2
he
X2
ID'd in.
draws. Yeah.
Yeah, so
But he like ID'd with like multiple non-wins on his record
And-
anyway to like 20 something.
Travis is a fantastic player, amazing player, and I just don't think a lot of people can play Krista at the level that Travis plays Krista. And I don't think if you're playing at that top level with Krista, you are going to top. So the question to me is like, is Travis playing Krista? And is maybe
Yeah.
Justin
Travis. Yeah,
playing Krista?
Travis likes to like really target metagames, from what I
Yes.
understand. So I don't think he's the type to just keep bringing the same deck because it's what he has.
I agree.
He's going to cook something up that it could equally be Krista or anything else.
Right.
I also like, I'm with Kevin. I think Krista's probably still pretty good. I've thought about it as, aside from Ymir, that's the other like quote unquote try hard deck I could bring if I had A, more time, or B, fewer Sam Devron Racer Brain Worms. But yeah, I think probably, with some changes compared to the Worlds list for sure, like you probably need more raw damage output now for sure with all the grogs that they're going to be running around.
Yeah.
But I think there's a way to do it.
Sure.
But again, maybe less of a Denver thing and more of an Albuquerque thing, although there will be a new set out then too. But,
Yeah.
Well,
We'll
and
see if it's legal or not.
I don't think any of the characters we named are bad, except for I will actually say I think Percy is pretty not good.
Yeah.
That was the main reason I put Percy, was because I think Percy's actually not a very good character at all. I think he is the high rolliest of high roll characters.
Oh, he's absolutely a glass cannon character.
And
I don't think that necessarily makes him bad.
I mean, yeah, but like, and as Broberg said, like at that point, I want to be playing someone like Irwin, who I feel has almost the same level of cannon capability without being near as much glass.
Or just play Mirko.
Yeah.
All right. What card from before Critical Role, what non-character card do you think will have what I would describe as a surprising performance, which is to say, it wasn't like a staple or anything before this. You didn't see it very often, but at this event, somebody's going to make that card look really good.
Yeah, because the way I'm viewing this is like someone's going to have this card on stream and they're going to do something cool with it, or like it's going to like help them win a match, and everyone's going to be like, that card's awesome.
Hey, we're just looking for things to yap about. You can interpret the thing however.
That's fair. I'm just saying, like, in context of my answer.
I'm going to put two answers because I have one for one specific character that's going to use it and then one overall.
Yes, it'd be extremely curious. What's the Aaron's trial this weekend, or the greater goal of this weekend?
Ross, the problem with me writing down Coronation of Historia Rice is I slam that card in everything.
That card is actually good.
Yeah.
I am ready to go when you guys are.
Okay. All right.
Here's upbringing.
Badgie.
I wrote draw
Patchwork babies.
Swords.
Draw your swords. Nice. And
yeah,
true 100%.
True 100% unleashed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
so true 100%. You're thinking both Ghidorah and Elder, right? Or maybe some other. Oh, and Nick Reagan. That card's actually in a lot. Yeah.
I feel like I had like a vibe of why this was going to be interesting or surprising. That was more so than just you get to put it in a Nick Reagan lol.
Good. Draw your swords. That's the weapon theme. So you're thinking like Vax or
kind of. So the problem I have with that card, because I put it in most of the death weapon decks I build, but I always cut it to a low number because it has such rough like competition, right? Because you have Immortal, you have Death Maneuvers. That's the Toga card, right?
Yeah.
You have similar cards in that vein, but like +1 damage and stun one could go crazy. Like, I'm not saying it'll be the deck itself will be good. Like, we might see a Mollymock on stream, for example, that just gives all his attacks stun 2 and just murders someone, and that might be super cool.
Yeah, and one of the things about that card when it first came out, like I was poo-pooing it for a lot of the same reasons, but I was like, at some point, if there's a weapon theme that you can play that's not already on Death Maneuver symbols, then we'll see some draw your swords. And that's something that Critical Role has brought. You have air weapons and void weapons are both things you can be doing now.
Right.
That could
Plus,
get
SJW has all symbol weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's an all plus death character out there that's any good.
So Justin, you had Badgie, makes sense.
Badgie's I think Tarion. It's actually specifically I think Tarion's going to overperform.
Oh sure.
And I think a lot of like the what I'm going to call, for lack of a better word, like the tier 2, the intermediate players have not really caught on how crazy Tarion is. And I think one of the things that makes him crazy is the ability to split how much he kills you with across multiple Badgies. And so I think people are going to go, oh my God, that card's doing so much in that deck. So that's like my one character one. I think Badgie helps make that deck.
Yeah. The other one you had.
The other one was Patchwork Baby. And is Nick Reagan lol, obviously. But I also think we are in like an era where I think Order has a potential to shine. I think Tarion uses Order really well. I think there were a few other Order characters I was really looking towards. I think the Order support, there are a few cards in Order I really like that got came out. I think like the Seal 1 Foundation order asset's already cool. I think like if you're talking a tune symbol, there's a 2-diff that's once per turn reveal the top of your deck. That card, I don't know how good it is. I really like that card. I think that card does a lot.
Isn't that also the one with like Deadlock, get +2 or -2?
No, it's
No.
just reveal.
It's just
card.
reveal.
Oh, okay, I'm thinking the Percy card that looks.
Oh, you're thinking the Percy card? There's a Percy card that flips to reveal.
Yeah.
I
Also
also
says Deadlock.
I like that once per turn reveal a lot because we also reprinted Destined for Mainstream Success on Order Attuned at the same time.
Yeah.
And it feels
sure.
really good being able to like look at the top of your deck and then decide if you're going to burn your Destined or not at that point. I think like Order is in like a very interesting position to shine, and I think Patrick Babies is one of the best Order cards.
Yeah, I think there's even some evil, like putting
he's
Animus Shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Animus Shot, Patchwork, Tri-Gravity Beam is a start to something.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
Dan
a
said
like
it
figure
in-
this out in a week something,
Right.
but
Dan said in chat, and he's my local. He plays that in Ghidorah, so I've been on the receiving end of that string. It's rough.
I just also think we're in a era for people to not be prepared against an EX3 powerful 3 move again. Like people have gotten comfortable not playing against Armor of the Wolf too terribly often, you know, not
It's circle of
repeated.
life. Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm like, hey, this is where I want to see an EX3 powerful 3 card murder someone.
Yeah,
What if
you
we-
play Frog, he lets you slap him 6 times. Oh, great. Plus
Yeah,
18
right.
FPS per
Yeah.
Let's go.
all right. What if we like spend 1 measly momentum to a powerful 5 first, you see? And then we play the Patchwork, and it gets +5 speed to itself, stuns them 2, gets 2 speed off of Grog, gets God knows how much damage from the keywords, and then powerful 3 for however much.
Yeah.
Holy crap, that's so cool. Hold on. Tim,
Everyone does some cool things. I don't know if they're good enough cool things, but there's some cool things.
that is definitely a Tyrion light, if nothing else. That is definitely why Tyrion might play Patchwork. All right.
And Terry lemon potatoes that cancel their damage resets.
God, okay. Sorry. Small rant. The Tyrion potatoes, we talked a little bit about this last week. Every time I play against a Tyrion who has built 2 or 3 potatoes and my DR just doesn't exist anymore, I get so upset.
You deserve it.
The good from Tim is perfect.
all right. These last 2 are kind of just funny. There's not going to be a whole lot to talk about, but they'll just be fun to throw up words.
Right.
Yeah.
What attack will be the killing blow in finals?
I'm gonna be a little extra specific with mine
Oh boy.
because it's fun.
I'm going to make it what my dream one is. That is also one that it could be.
My answer is very boring.
Yeah, I have a pretty sleepy one too.
We might have the same sleepy one.
We may all 3 have the same sleepy one.
Is it unblockable?
Kind of.
Mine is not unblocked.
All right. Besiege.
It could be.
Besiege.
Oh, no.
Mine is
Bedazzled.
mine is Hatefish,
Nice.
specifically wearing a true 100%.
I love it. I love it.
If it's
Alright,
Nick
your
Reagan,
answer's
it'll
way
be a
cooler than
Besiege.
ours are.
Absolutely be a Besiege.
It's a much more exciting call shot, yeah.
My dream is I want it to be a powerful 5 Bedazzle move that gets like with 4 momentum, powerful 20s or something stupid. That card makes me so upset.
Would Besiege or Battle Aura release be more boring? Like, what's the sleepier answer of those?
Besiege is
probably
more
Battle
boring.
Aura. Really?
I think Besiege is more boring because you're way less likely to get the if they check a 5 or they can make it. If they check a 3, they fail. Like you could have in Battle Aura. But if they don't have the
Sure.
+3 mid block, it's just this is unblockable, and I go
I
great.
guess that's fair.
I lose.
And Battle Aura has like it's like very workmanlike, right? I'm just playing this attack just 'cause it's supposed to be in my deck.
Yeah,
you know, just
Battle
pick
Aura
number out,
is doing
whatever.
its job. Besiege, I almost talked about this on
Besiege is kind of hype.
the
Yeah.
Grog section. I think Besiege is a war crime card. I think a card that says if you're not holding +3 blocks or have a combined firepower in discard, this move gets unblockable. Piss off! I hate that so much.
No, that's lit, dude. I love evasion. If you don't like the low zone, I respect that. If you dislike the existence of the low zone, I respect that. I appreciate the low zone because it is not real and cannot hurt me. But I'm happy it's there for people who want to play low zone gamers. It's just
I'm using Besiege as an excuse to run bad cards, and I'm gonna say it's because they have a +3 mid block, but it's actually because I want to run the bad card.
it's the low of mid. That's exactly right.
Oh man.
All right, now for a really stupid one. How many cards will be in the top finishing Nick Reagan deck?
Let me see if Nick has posted his most
Nope,
recent.
no cheating. No cheating. You gotta guess.
And I don't know. We'll get a pretend cookie to whoever gets the closest or something.
I love pretend cookies.
Got it?
All right, ready?
99.
116.
111.
Because
One-
it's Nick's deck size.
2 say
116 because it's
116.
Nick's deck size.
I'm the only one under 100. Okay.
Because I think, unironically, and this might just me gassing up a teammate, you know, but I think Nick has played his deck like crazy.
Probably,
I mean,
yeah.
Spoiler alert, he helped design it. He's had way more playtest time with it than anyone else.
And he has experience shuffling that many cards.
He has experience.
Because it's an actual skill you have to have.
He will be the one least likely to go into time due to shuffling. I think there is a good chance that Nick Reagan makes it farther than anyone else with his own character.
Yeah.
Jose, he doesn't have to try hard to do well with that character.
Jose, Nick attributes him winning Worlds to the fact that he wanted to go cube during Worlds. That the entire
Right.
tournament he wanted to go play
He wanted to
cubed
go
and
to
wasn't
Disney.
allowed to. All right.
Yeah. I just figured someone out there is going to register a Reagan's list. It's like, I don't want to play 100 cards.
Yeah.
99. That's a cool number.
99, that makes me unique.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good
All right.
explanation. I
So,
think that's probably
That's
a
all,
good,
that's all I got for
a
my
good
silly
episode.
whiteboard stuff.
That is a good bit though. I like that segment. It's good.
Yeah.
and we definitely are. We're a little past an hour now. So I think it's a good time to kind of start summarizing kind of our thoughts overall. I do want to ask a question for the three of you. Are you excited for Denver?
Oh yeah, I can't wait to see what cool Terry on this is gonna beat my ass.
Yeah. I'm making sure that I'm playing a deck that I'm going to have fun playing,
Right.
regardless of the outcomes. You know,
Yeah.
I think if I played a super sweaty deck, I'd be like, oh boy, I'd better make top 4. I'm just going to be mad or whatever. But you know, we're going to have a good time regardless. And then, you know, if I'm not in top cuts, then I'll have my board games as always.
Right.
So it can't
yeah.
really go wrong.
I'm just gonna do what I can and then get side points for points or side events for points because the promos look gorgeous.
Oh yeah, the
That's
prize
what
wall
I'm going
promos
for.
are like good this time.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
I at least want a playset of Radiant Visage.
Mm.
Oh god, yeah, that one looks so good.
Okay, I might have to play in some side events. I may have to like build a second deck to have to play in side events.
I'm bringing
what-
my
what's-
retro deck so I can play inside events.
What sucks is my retro deck is awful, and so I won't win anything in those side events, and they'll be really tough.
Mine's win, so I'm at least winning like 3 games, and then I'll lose to Heidi again. It'll be great.
Yeah, I built the cursed Googly Eyes Momo too.
Nice.
We're cheating boats in play. It's gonna be great.
Good.
It's gonna be ineffective, but it's gonna be cool.
Well,
That's all that matters.
as someone not going myself, I am excited to see how it turns out. I just couldn't make it work, and I needed a break, but I really do want to see if the format changes at all. You know, I think this is a very interesting time because we didn't do any bans, but we have a new set release. Does the set release shake things up enough? Did rotation do enough? Is it the same game we were playing at Worlds, or is something about the format really feel, not just is there different decks, does the format feel different?
Yeah, I think two things. First of all, the presence of Grog as a likely popular deck, regardless of what you think about his power
Sure.
level, is a level of damage redux pressure that people may not have felt when it was just like, but who's actually going to play Hodge, right? Like a lot of people just weren't really that seriously prepared for damage reduction in the last couple formats, I think, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And now that's going to make its way to, like, people are going to go to their locals and face damage reduction decks. So I think that's going to be a shift in terms of what people are bringing. And as a part of that, you know, the damage reduction strategy may not do as well, regardless of how silly it is when it does have the good matchups.
Mhm.
And then the second element, like the combined firepower science products, the last format did not have people sending 12 speed for 20 on 2.
Right.
Yeah.
That matters.
It was
a lot.
like 20. It was like 20 damage, but definitely not that much speed.
Depend. Like the Percy ones will get more speed than
Right.
the Merco
Right.
ones. Yeah,
Right.
that is the one benefit of Percy is that your turn 2 Science Bros attacks are actually fast.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like almost the Nationals metagame I feel was defined by people playing Runaway and cards of that ilk, specifically because not even a reaction to the ultra tall stuff, but like things shaped like Walk the Dog and Deception Dagger that are too fast to comfortably defend while respecting Walk the Dog, and maybe Walk the Dog's kind of falling out of bed almost. And yeah, we're getting an even pointer, even taller peak of the damage output, and kind of the same for False Visage too of out of Ymir's, that we're getting these one shot kill attacks more and more often.
Yeah, and there's also going to be a broader cognizance of we didn't talk about Deku at all today, but I mean, people know about that deck now. Will it show up? Who knows? But I mean, that could just walk away with the tournament. I mean, I don't know how to prepare that thing.
Yeah, he has so many more cards to discard for 0 damage, right?
And like there are still
nothing else.
There are still Elder Toguro decks even without Sports Festival that are trying to do like rush through enemies or whatever that's called. To just like still give things a bajillion speed and damage. Like I think there is still a world where a one punch deck, especially like one that can block every move Grog throws, if you're worried about Grog, might have some real gas in the next format.
Yeah, and we have more total sideways nonsense. Like there's a intentional mill strategy in Critical Role, however good that is. There's the Death Rattle deck. There's the Death Rattle combo with Grove Keepers, which is not that it does burn you for each dead backup out of it. I'm excited to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well I think unless anyone has any other thoughts they want to share, that is going to be it. Do people want to go ahead and one more time plug your respective YouTubes and everything?
But yeah, I'm Tim Satonis on YouTube, TK Satonis on Twitter. I think I have Satonis on Blue Sky, which is I'm trying to do more just like only posting on Blue Sky when I do post stuff. So if people actually care to follow me on that sort of thing, I'll be on there. I post like maybe one thing a week. It's not really anything, but my next video is going to be a box opening video, and what I do with those, because it's well after release as these things often are, I'm just going to like pick a card out of each pack and yap about it for a couple minutes. So if you want to watch me talk about random cards out of booster packs for 40 minutes, that'll go up sometime after Denver.
Yeah, I will pitch my channel when I have uploaded any content for the channel since the last episode. And I gotta flagellate myself a little bit for not doing that. So
I will go ahead and I don't have anything personal to plug. I will say keep an eye out for those of you who are wanting to listen to these podcasts after they happen. I have spring breaks for me as a teacher starting next week, so I'm hoping next week we can really iron out and really by this weekend start releasing these on YouTube as full videos. So we'll post it in all the relevant channels when that actually happens. But I would definitely anticipate sometime next week you're going to get to start seeing these on YouTube. Grab your favorites, all of that. Other than that, thank you all for turning out. We really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. Good luck in Denver to anyone who's going, and we will talk to you later.
Good
night.